G'day guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I was gonna look at the Louisiana Purchase and the fair that pretty much it inspired 100 years later. Just gonna go over the background a little bit. So throughout the second half of the 18th century, Louisiana was a pawn on the chessboard of European politics. So essentially this whole area of the United States was owned by the French, and most likely from Napoleon's dominance all the way over Europe and then back to America for this part. This section, and it's interesting that he came for this area. I mean, there was obviously millions, and I mean hundreds of millions of Native Americans in this quarter of America at that time. And I'm sure, I mean, I don't mean to laugh, it's just horrible. They obviously were slaughtered for dominance in this region. And the narrative will probably tell you different, that it was all a nice shake of the hand between the French and the Americans, albino white Americans, and probably going to hide the fact that it was a slaughter and after a slave rebellion. Is let's have a look when you type St. Louis City 1904. There was nothing here, they said, and they built this in 4 years. Several years after the Chicago World's Fair of 1893 in Chicago, and they said that. I was just looking for what St. Louis looked like at that stage, and a lot of it is fair related, which is interesting. I saw something here, the Forest City, and of course it would have been a forest because Native Americans didn't build this. This was built by a very advanced civilization that can build in a Roman style with columns and domes, and in the same time, I mean, look at this in comparison. And this is the photos on the Wikipedia site. We could actually go back here and have a look. The fair's size was 1,200 acres, so 4.9 square kilometers for a 6-month fair in 1904 to celebrate a couple of fat white dudes taking over some land from some fat French dudes who I think that in the 1800s just went on rampage, taking ownership of these capital cities of an ancient people. So some ridiculous fact, I reckon, was the largest fair to date. Over 1,500 buildings connected by 75 miles or 121 kilometers of roads and walkways, said to be impossible to give even a hurried glance over a week. You would still not be able to see everything. It's pretty spectacular for a fair, very short-lived, so long ago. Here is the administration building, obviously, that you would get a stamp and on your way. This site is pretty cool. 155 photos of the St. Louis Exposition, and we'll go through a few of them. We won't stop on all of them. Getting a size of this place. Jerusalem. This view of Cascade and Festival Hall. Okay, Cascade Hall, etc. Look at this building, the Illinois building, with the Ferris wheel behind it. Pretty Roman looking. Blimp, I don't know. electricity. I mean, they obviously built this structure with a horse and buggy and dirt roads. They could easily build those structures. I believe that. I mean, the town hall just for a fair, but to me, here's the opening ceremony, I assume, and Edison and Livingston and Monroe and Roosevelt, etc., under this column, having their big speech of how great they are. Huge event for 6 months for the people. And they say in the narrative on Wikipedia also that funded by the people. Now, if you can't find a picture of the city of St. Louis this early, how can these guys fund, I think $15 million they said, of raised money for this to happen? Architects lining up to build here. Looking like a capital city to me, and along with this actually looks sort of interesting. I mean, Wood and Nichols touched on the melted cities in the Mojave, and this is called Cliff Dwellers. The pike at the World's Fair could be representing much of that. Look like a chimney. The Chinese exposition or reproduction. But then you get to something like this and have a look at all these buildings at night and by day, all with ridiculous names. Something like this could be the Palace of Agriculture, and this would be the Palace of Manufacturing, and the Palace of Mining, and the Palace of Electricity. I just don't. A palace? Look at this. Look at this, though. So they said it was the forest city. Some small trees. Is that a tree that's, I don't know, is that a tree that's been growing 3 years? I mean, I did do some gardening, but is that 3 years old? They must have planted that and then started building. All of this. It's perfect. It's a telegraphy tower, wireless telegraphy tower. The Palace of Electricity. Again at night. Palace of Varied Industries. Wine cask. A wine cask for giants. This is just generic. It says this on all the photos. That's why I haven't been reading them. Louisiana Purchase, informally known as the St. Louis World's Fair, was the event of the century. More than 60 countries, many structures, they say. For a fact, it was over 1,500 structures. 20 million people came, but I'm pretty sure the other fairs, over 50 to 60 million people attended. Now, remember, this is to dedicate to the taking over of Louisiana by the Americans. Nothing really to show of the Native Americans. Is that a joke? Hereafter? Is that a big coffin? It's a bit morbid. Ferris wheel look. Yeah, Ferris wheel view. Dormitory B. I didn't see this before. Clearly a mud flood, an old mud flooder. Look at that. Buried, absolutely buried. These fairs were actually sites for capital cities of these ancient civilizations that we've all been looking into and haven't really come to confirmation on exactly or who exactly built. I mean, here's construction of the Ferris wheel. Sure, I believe that we could have built a Ferris wheel with all this sort of shit, these pulleys and stuff on dirt roads. I mean, look at that, it's shocking. I mean, this is just an excuse for the elites to show off their dominance over the people, and look what we built. Look how amazing we are, believe us, serve us, pay us taxes. Don't worry about the people that were here before, that's not important. Let's just pretend it's ours. It's free masonry for the taking. But it also looks like something we would attempt. It looks patched up with duct tape. Patched up with duct tape, but building glorious, magnificent structures like this. Canals. I mean, building a canal in itself takes more than 4 years, I'm pretty sure. Not from experience, but I would take a guess. Here's the highway. Automobile parade. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. On the Louisiana Purchase and its Expo. Thanks for joining me. Leave a like if you've liked what you've seen. My name's Phil. This is Tartarian Zephyr. Have a nice rest of your day or evening. See you later.